My dad dropped me at a homeless shelter on Christmas Eve with a garbage bag of clothes, so his new wife wouldn't have to raise another woman's child. When I finally asked him why he never came back, he looked away and said, "You were complicated. James was simple." I just stared at him. That was 17 years ago. Last week he collapsed on the shelter floor serving breakfast next to the same bench he left me on. I was 12 when my dad dropped me off at the homeless shelter on Christmas Eve. Not because we were poor, and not because he couldn't take care of me, but because his new wife didn't want another woman's child in her perfect house. The drive there was silent except for the Christmas music on the radio. I kept thinking he'd turn around. Maybe this was just to scare me into being better behaved around Sharon. But then we pulled up to this gray building with a line of people outside waiting in the cold. He turned to me and said, "This is temporary. Just until Sharon adjusts to the idea of you living with us. I'll always provide for you. You're my responsibility." I believed him. Even when he handed me a garbage bag with my clothes. Even when the shelter worker looked at him with complete disgust. Even when he drove away without looking back. For 3 weeks I told everyone my dad was coming back. The other kids at the shelter had heard it all before, but I was different. My dad had promised. Week 4 came and went. Then month 2. The shelter had a phone, and I called his cell every day until the number got disconnected. Called his office until his secretary said I wasn't on the list of approved callers anymore. Sharon had given birth to their real child, a boy they named James. I found out through Facebook on the shelter's computer. The announcement said, "Our first child has arrived," like I'd never existed, but I still waited. On my 13th birthday, I sat by the shelter entrance all day. Nothing. Child services tried to place me in foster homes, but I kept running back to that shelter. What if he came looking and I wasn't there? The shelter workers started calling me Ghost because I'd disappear from foster placements and reappear at their door. It took 8 months before I finally understood. He wasn't adjusting to anything. He'd thrown me away like trash and started over with his new family. That's when I stopped being a kid. The streets taught you fast or they killed you. I learned which restaurants threw out fresh food at closing, which libraries let you stay all day if you were reading, which churches had unlocked bathrooms where you could wash up. Started hanging around the university library, and when students left their textbooks behind, I'd read them cover to cover. Chemistry, biology, anatomy. The librarian noticed me eventually. Mrs. Smith. She never said anything about my situation, but started leaving sandwiches on the desk where I studied. When I turned 16, I lied about my age and got a job washing dishes. Saved every penny. Slept in a storage unit I rented for $50 a month. It was illegal but cheaper than any apartment. I studied for my GED between shifts. The other dishwashers thought I was weird reading medical textbooks while scrubbing pots, but I had a plan. Sharon had stolen my father, but she wasn't stealing my future. Passed my GED with perfect scores. Got into community college, then transferred to State University. Pre-med. Full scholarships because my essays about homelessness made admissions committees cry. Medical school was harder. Not academically, but explaining gaps in my history. Why no family at graduation? Why my emergency contact was a librarian. I never mentioned my father. Listed him as deceased on applications. Easier than explaining the truth. 36-hour shifts on 4 hours sleep, but I'd slept in worse conditions. The other residents complained about the hospital cots being uncomfortable. I wanted to laugh. They had no idea what uncomfortable meant. Try sleeping on concrete in January, but I kept my mouth shut and worked harder than everyone. My attending physicians loved me because I never complained. Never had family emergencies. I specialized in nephrology. I bought a house. A real house with heat that always worked and a bed that didn't smell like other people's misery. Then I met Anna at a medical conference. Smart and beautiful and laughed at my terrible medical puns. We had a daughter. I built everything from nothing. Without him, without any of them. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number but local area code. Almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Dr. Brian Williams?" The voice was professional. Tired. "Yes, this is Dr. Poe at Mercy General. Your father listed you as his emergency contact. He's in acute kidney failure. We need to discuss treatment options." I hung up, blocked the number, but they called from different lines. Eventually Anna answered and they told her everything. How he needed a transplant. How his son was a doctor. How I was the only family match they could find because his other child James was only 14 and Sharon had diabetes. "You should at least